Welcome in, everyone, to Picks and Parlays, Bettors Edge. I'm Hannah Mears. That's Craig Trapp. That's Andrew Fillipponi. This is Week 11 of the NFL. Things are getting very fun. We've got some good games to look at, starting with the Cowboys and the Panthers. This game is slated for the 1 p.m. slot, and the Cowboys, again, are coming in as a double-digit favorite, sitting at 10.5. Craig, you're smiling over here. Do you like this? Do you not? Can Bryce Young come back?
Yeah. He said it's a good game. I don't know if this is
that what the smile's for?
I just can't lay double digits as an expert. That's just something you very rarely do in the NFL, even like NBA pro sports in general. I have to take the under in this game. I just think Carolina's defense has been fairly good. I think they realize what they are. They are a limited offensive team. They have to limit the number of possessions in the game. Cowboys, I think defense is for real. I'm going to take the under in this game and just hope that we don't see some defensive touchdowns, because with a low score or a low total like this, that's the one caveat that you have to worry about. But I'm going to take the under in this one.
It's a horrible feeling when you bet a game and you know it's a lost bet 2 minutes in.
Yep.
And that was the Giants for me last week against the Cowboys. So I took the 16.5 points and quickly realized that they were going to lose the game by about 40. That was not good. But, Craig, if your strategy at the blackjack table is to hit on 16, if you lose the first hand, don't you keep with that strategy? At least I do. I don't switch in the middle. So I'm going to bet against the Cowboys as a huge favorite. Again, it is on the road. And the one other time we saw them as a big road favorite was when they lost to Arizona. And that is when Josh Dobbs was Arizona's quarterback. And clearly the Dobbs narrative has shifted over the last few weeks with what he's done in Minnesota. But we did see Carolina beat Houston at home. And obviously the Texans stock has gone nothing but up since. 10.5, no, I can't do it. Even with Dak Prescott playing as well as he is, Hannah, I'm going to take the 1-win Panthers.
I'm going to do everything you guys said not to do. And the reason is when I can feel like I can make an argument for that number. And this isn't like we're seeing it at 14, 15. It's at 10. So this is sort of feasible at this point for the Cowboys and what they've been doing against a Carolina team who, Craig, we were just talking about it. It seems like they just have a bunch of pieces, but nothing's meshing together at the moment. And Bryce Young is just not what we expected him to be at this point. And that's okay. I don't think it's over for him. But Carolina has lost by 10 points or more in 5 of their 8 losses so far this season. So there's rhythm with Dak and his receivers right now. We saw what it looked like when possibly they're moving away from relying just on Tony Pollard and adding in more into that run game to take some pressure off of him. Maybe that's even more of a solution. They may have unlocked something with that there. And Dak, I mean, come on, he's not gone under 300 passing yards since the bye week. I just think there's a lot of momentum heading into this one. And I don't think seeing them win by maybe 2 touchdowns is unrealistic at this point. So I will go ahead and say Dallas minus 10.5. That could bite me, but I feel like there's a strong argument there. And this is a game that I feel comfortable doing that in. Pony, we're going to talk about the Steelers and Browns in this one, right? Steelers and Browns, always a big week in the AFC, but the Steelers just keep finding ways to win. And at this point, if you ask anybody in Pittsburgh, you don't really know how they are as good as what they are. Not even good. I wouldn't call them good, but the record is as good as what it is, I would say. So what are your initial thoughts when you see this line move? Because in lieu of the Deshaun Watson news, it was at 4 yesterday. It's at 2.5 now.
Yeah, it didn't move enough for me, which I'm still scratching my head over it. Why is Cleveland still favored in this game? It's P.J. Walker, we think, at quarterback. If it's not, it's DTR, who in his one game against Baltimore this year was a complete disaster. They got killed at home and scored only 3 points. If it's Walker, who did beat San Francisco, we are talking about a quarterback who has 6 touchdowns to 16 interceptions in his career, and the Steelers have the best turnover margin or ratio in the NFL. So I just think that's a bad recipe for them. I'm going to take the Steelers' money line in this game. If this is not the Sunday where they outgain the opponent, then it's not going to happen this year, because come on now, with a USFL quarterback out there, no Nick Chubb, no Jack Conklin at right tackle, it's time for the Steelers offense to maybe not be great in this game, Hannah, but be better than what we're going to see from the Cleveland offense. Steelers money line.
I completely agree. This is, to me, is a game that screams ugly AFC North football where the Steelers squeak out a win. It just does. The only thing that ever scares me playing against the Browns is the run game against the Steelers, because it always seems to be the thing that gets them. And Jerome Ford played a fantastic game when Nick Chubb went down early on in the season against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'm going to say Steelers money line as well. At this point, just a Pony's point, essentially, if they can't win this, then they are in a lot of trouble. Even with the inside linebacker situations, I still think Mike Tomlin's going to tell his defense to put pressure on and make them beat you by throwing the ball. And I don't think if Cleveland decides to just rely on the run, that it's going to be enough to beat the Steelers, who offensively, hopefully, with Matt Canada on the sidelines, we see a little bit of something here in this one. Craig, do you agree, or are you going to go with Cleveland, even though you're a Bengals fan?
I wanted Watson to be the quarterback here because I like that 4 number a lot more with Watson as the quarterback. Cleveland, I think this is a benefit to Cleveland. Now, yes, P.J. Walker isn't as good as Watson, but there were clearly, when Walker's the quarterback, they're clearly a running first defense or run first offense, play to their strength of their defense, and punt and play field position, limit the number of possessions. I think that's how Cleveland should be playing with Watson. When he's there, it's like they can't because they're worried they're going to hurt his feelings and say, hey, we're going to run the ball first. So to me, it's just like, it's that 2.5 number. I'm going to buy a half, take Pittsburgh +3. Pittsburgh, the first matchup, they did struggle. Even with the injury, they struggled to stop the run. So that is the one worry here. But I think they find a way to win. I mean, Pittsburgh continues to find ways to just get it done. Yeah.
Tampa Bay at the 49ers. Can Baker and the Bucs get it done as a 10.5-point underdog? This is one I'm not going to touch when it comes to the double digits. Don't feel confident. But Craig, what do you think?
Yeah, Tampa looked to have found something last week. And, I keep thinking Tampa Bay is going to take this South Division. And, it's up for grabs for pretty much anybody, maybe outside of Carolina, I think. But to me, I think you take Tampa here plus the points. Yes, San Francisco looked amazing last week. It was a great spot coming off a bye. You had lost 3 in a row. I do think San Francisco wins, but I think Tampa Bay just finds a way to limit the number of possessions in the game, take care of the ball, and I think they cover. It could even be a backdoor cover here, but a cover just the same.
Pony, Baker Mayfield's never thrown a touchdown against the Niners. He's thrown 3 interceptions, though. Does that change your thoughts on this?
Yeah, there's this weird thing, and I've talked about it on the show, where these teams that have these big, decisive blowout wins against good teams tend to have a letdown spot the next week, and I think this has the potential to be that. To Craig's point, Tampa Bay has done a few things in the Tennessee game that you wonder about for this game. They only gave up 6 points. Their defense, especially getting pressure, their secondary has veterans. There's the potential there, I think, to hold San Francisco under 30 points and get them in the 20s. And then at that point, Craig, if you get 14 points or 17 points from the Buccaneers offense, you feel like you're going to get a cover in this game. And Rachaad White, the running back in Tampa Bay, if you play fantasy football, you look at him now. He's had productive games now repeatedly the last few weeks. Mike Evans has just been so consistent for them over the years. The San Francisco secondary has been an issue. Pass protection, though, for Tampa Bay is big in this game. I do like the points. I always skew like Craig to take points, and I think there's an argument to be made again in this game to do that.
The one thing I like is looking at Brock Purdy in this one. I don't really love the numbers enough to pick a side. I do agree with what you guys are saying. That's what I would have been able to make the argument for, was for Tampa Bay. But I'll make an argument for Brock Purdy here, over 233.5 passing yards. That's where I've seen that number at the moment. The Bucs have had some of the worst numbers in the league when it comes to protecting against the pass, and that's on all fronts, coming up total yards given up, yards per attempt, etc. They're giving up 266 yards per game on average right now. Purdy seemed to find a little bit of rhythm after the bye week, maybe getting his confidence back. That's what we're going to need to see. So I think they're going to keep pushing him to throw the ball, get his confidence back, and get this Niners team back on track so they don't just have to rely on a guy like Christian McCaffrey down the stretch. So I'll take his over in the passing yards in that game. Now, when it comes to the Jets and Bills, there's a whole bunch of storylines surrounding this one when it comes to everything about this game. Now, the Jets are 6.5 2.5-point underdogs, total sitting at 40. When I'm looking at this game, the first thing I'm taking under 40. That's the first thing I'm going to take because one thing we can rely on is the Jets defense to perform. I saw a stat sheet of a meme essentially on Twitter, and it was saying a team that's really good, the Jets defense, a team that's really bad, the Jets offense. And that is the absolute story of their season. So I'm taking the under 40. The Jets have not scored more than 13 points since the bye week, which has been bad. And truthfully, the Bills have looked astronomically out of sync, scoring an average of 20 points in their last 2 losses. We're not sure what this whole thing is with Stephon Diggs and with Josh Allen. Is there a lot of tension there? And now mix in the coordinator situation. I'm not going to predict this one to be high scoring. Pony, what are your initial thoughts? You're over here. You've got a lot going on in your brain.
No, you're right. I actually do. I am thinking a lot about that. Josh Allen's numbers against the Jets historically are not good. So that's to your point about the under. I think the Jets have, in the 9 games they've played this year, I think they've scored 8 offensive touchdowns. So that just is wow. I mean, I watch the Steelers offense every week, but that makes the Steelers offense look like the 2001 Rams. But this might surprise you guys. I think that the 12 men on the field penalty, which allowed for the Bills to scapegoat Ken Dorsey and make him the fall guy, I think for this team it's the best thing that's happened to them all year. Because I think they need a radical change. I think they need something to shake everything up there. I think they were running in on the beach. I think they were running in place 5-5, asking Josh Allen to do everything, abandoning the run, benching James Cook for a fumble early in the game, completely inexcusable in my opinion to dog a guy like that. I think they need something to snap out of the malaise that they're in. And maybe this won't work, but it gets the quarterback's attention. Maybe he's not as reckless with the ball now. I actually like the Bills a lot more with this change. I think they get a bump, just like we've seen the Raiders get a bump from firing their head coach. And I think they're going to blow out the Jets. I'm going to lay the 6.5 here.
I agree, though. They were at that situation where something drastic needed to change or else their season was falling in a hole fast. Craig, can you get on that side, though?
I like the Bills a lot here, too, because revenge spot. Remember, first game of the year they lost. If they would have won that game, they wouldn't have made any changes.
No.
And it would have been status quo. And so losing, I think, probably gets them into the playoffs this year because I think they're going to turn things around. It's going to start this week. I think if they won, this line would probably be 7 or 7.5. The Jets are terrible on offense. And the Bills' defense has been good. It's really not the Bills' defense. It's been turnovers and their inability to score in the red zone touchdowns instead of field goals. I think this is the week. They figure it out. Bills minus 6.5. If it's not now, when if you're Buffalo and they said the window's closing. The window's closed if they lose this year in Buffalo. So I think the Bills minus 6.5 is a gift here.
A window that might be opening. The Denver Broncos. Hello. Where did they come from? Is that why you dressed in this Broncos? Am I in Broncos colors today? Let's ride again. No, I will say I'm yielding with caution at the moment. I'm not fully in the lane. I'm yielding with caution back into the Broncos bandwagon here. He's saying don't do it. Well, that's because Josh Dobbs has really made Minnesota look good again. And we don't know if Justin Jefferson will make his return, but he very well could.
So you're
and he
picking
might be
Minnesota
excited.
to win?
I'm not picking Minnesota to win. I'm actually going to pick Broncos on the money line, and here's why. The Broncos game last week, they missed 2 extra points, right? Or else that score, we wouldn't have had to have that controversial ending where people were saying, well, they shouldn't have probably won. No, they should have won. That shouldn't even have been a discussion if they don't miss those 2 extra points in the game. Denver's on a 3-game win streak right now. Offensively, they feel like they found some flow. Defensively, we know what they can do. When you look at the defensive stats, that game against Miami is why a lot of the numbers do look skewed. I don't think their defense is as bad as what some of the numbers are alluding to right now. So I'm going to say keep your eye on if Justin Jefferson plays or not, because that might make me step back from wanting to take this bet. But right now, Broncos, please don't let me down. I will say I'm going to take the Broncos in the money line on this one. Minnesota's going to come down a notch on the Dobbs effect.
I actually think that the Jefferson, and people might think I'm crazy for saying this, for what the Vikings have done for the last game and a half with Dobbs, there might be an adjustment there if Jefferson comes back, which in the long run I think is clearly going to be a boom for them. He's one of the best players in the NFL. But now you've got to worry about, Dobbs has got to think about how often am I going to get the ball to him? What kind of focus is he in the offense? Right now, he's just free to play. And he's got Addison, and Hawkinson is coming off a big game. The running back Chandler stepped up as a young guy and played really well against the Saints. So I think that could complicate things. But either way, I think you're getting a bargain with the Broncos here. I think for whatever reason, there's a lot of positivity to the Dobbs effect. Usually it's the opposite when a team in prime time scores a big win. That line gets inflated. 2.5 seems low to me. People must be hung up on that 70-point game against Miami still, because in Denver, with the way Russell Wilson's playing right now, I really like the Broncos -2.5. I'm with you, Hannah.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I had to look away from those numbers and focus on those last three because it's so skewed right
Craig,
now
you
from
play
that
golf.
game.
Maybe
Craig,
you take a 15 on a hole, but the rest of the round's pretty good. That's kind of what the Broncos have done here.
This is a tough game, and the reason why is because Denver's been really bad, and they've been really good. So it's like, which Denver team, and you can make arguments on both ways, which that's why sports betting is so awesome.
So which one are you making?
I'm taking Minnesota. And the reason why is I think Minnesota can win the game. If I have an underdog that I think can win the game,
I get that.
then I like I think the coaching in Minnesota has been amazing. I mean, to keep this team after the slow start, the loss of quarterback, the loss of your best receiver, and to keep this thing on the train on the tracks, as they said. And in the NFC, and you look, after the top three teams in the NFC, who are you scared of? I think this is a team that can make the playoffs. I think this is a winnable game here. I could even see them losing and covering. So I'm going to take the points here with a Minnesota team. And Denver, let's be honest. Denver is as high as you can be. They beat Kansas City. You went 2 division opponents in a row. It's like, to me, I think Denver's not as good as what they've played recently. They might be turning it around. I just don't think they're as good as this -2.5 says.
Yield with caution, but we're almost back on the horse, okay? We're getting there. In terms of bets, I'm going to say tune into our Monday Night Football video with Pony and I, because that's where my best bet is going to be of the NFL this week.
On the biggest game of the season.
The biggest game of the season. I feel really good about the bet I'm going to make. So, Pony, what about your best bet, though? You're sticking in Sunday.
I am. I've had a sip of the Kool-Aid. I like the way it tastes with the Raiders. What they've done, albeit against the New York teams, and we know what those teams are. They can't do anything offensively. Exactly. Mark Davis picked the right time to fire his coach and make Antonio Pierce look good. But the line here against Miami is massive, and we know why, because the rub on the Dolphins is you ask yourself the question, are they playing a good team? And if the answer is no, you expect that they're going to blow out the other team. But with Max Crosby, Raiders defense, they get pressure on Tua in this game. I think it's a whole different story. O'Connell, actually, I see him make really quick decisions as a quarterback. He's a classic drop-back pocket quarterback who gets the ball and it's out. Which is ironic. You'd think Josh McDaniels would have liked a guy like that, having coached Tom Brady for all those years. But, geez, I'm going to keep it going on this show. I like double-digit underdogs this week, and the Raiders are the latest one.
All right, Craig.
Well, I'm going back to the well. Week one of my best bets was Seattle at home against this Rams team.
Lost outright.
We lost outright. That first half, they were winning, covering. They lost 2 offensive linemen in that game, completely changed the game. Yeah. They couldn't stop the Rams' pass attack. Since then, Seattle's defense has been better than I thought they could be this year. I think this is a revenge spot. I think Seattle takes care of business on the road. Now, don't expect blowouts, because Seattle's one of those teams, they just leave everybody in the game. But you only got to lay -1 here. I'm going to take Seattle, return to the well. I got 2 best bets this week. This is, I think, a really solid play, and I think Seattle gets that revenge in this spot.
If anybody wants more of what Craig has to offer in his best bets, head over to that Picks and Parlays app. It's available on all mobile device platforms. We have other handicappers and expertise on there as well, so don't miss out on downloading that app and giving yourself the best chance to make money every single week. This is Picks and Parlays Bettors Edge. I'm Hannah Mears. That's Craig Trapp. That's Andrew Fillipponi, and we'll see you next week.